So Leadership Talks, we are back with another series today with a friend of mine. I mean, you've seen this series, a lot of appreciation has also come. This is a series where we go backstage with achievers and try to understand not just their good side, but also the challenges they've faced, the adversity they've faced, the self-doubt that they've faced. Because, it takes a lot to come where they have. So professionals, corporates, people who have made a serious mark in their own lives. Today, Shashwat Goenka, I know Shashwat for a long, long time. Of course, a distinguished career. Now, as part of the RPSG Group, you see him as part of the IPL auction and during the team and during the matches. But this will be also about knowing Shashwat. Okay, so Shashwat, first things first. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And what role has sport played in your thing? And in the larger RPSG scheme, I see you all empower a lot of people. Whether it's your football team, whether it's your cricket team, you've told me on occasions where I've asked captaincy, this, that, you said, no, let the coaches decide. What role has kind of sport played in your life and the larger mission of the RPSG Group?
So I think, you spoke about empowerment, and let me start with that. I think for us in the group, empowerment is the way we operate, right? Whatever be the business, whatever be the sectors that we are in, whether it is energy, whether it is chemicals, whether it is retail, whether it is consumer, media, all of them. And sports is no different in that sense, right? The way we look at it is we're not necessarily experts in each sector. We have a certain purpose which we can help and work with the management, but every team has its own professional management, and they are the best in that domain to take the right calls and lead the respective teams to deliver the results that they need to. So from that sense, sports is no different for us, right? It's the same. But having said that, I think sports is a core part of the verticals that we're in, and beyond being a passion, I think more importantly, it is a very core business to the RPSG ecosystem. And that is how we look at it, whether it's the IPL, whether it's Mohan Bagan Super Giants, whether it is our presence in the SAPL, whichever way you look at it.
Now is a kind of personal question. You're so young. The limelight, the glare, the pressure, the paparazzi, people like us, media, continuously. How difficult is that? And has sport helped you there in dealing with all of this, the external pressures? Because there are certain expectations of a Goenka, right? The surname, you come from, your father is Sanjeev Goenka, an RPSG Group. And how do you deal with that?
As I'm thinking about it, I think it is a responsibility, yes. It is a responsibility to be able to do whatever, more than what's expected of you. I think the whole idea is, at least the way I look at it, is really, no matter who an individual is, right? Whether it is me or whether it is anybody else. And if you're entrusted with a certain responsibility, whatever that may be, right? It could be me with the work that I do. It could be my CEO with the business that he's running. It could be anybody, right? You should try and do it to your best abilities, right? And that's how I look at it. So I don't really see it as, I don't see it like pressure. I think it is a sense of responsibility for any job that you decide to take on, or any position you decide to hold. So you have to fulfill certain responsibilities and do them to the best of your ability. So
but don't you think that we're always judging you? I mean, it's unfair. So if I'm doing something, I have the freedom. I can make mistakes, but you can't. Or if I'm sort of able to get it across that a cricketer, a corporate, a leader, you can't, because you are being judged by established parameters.
And the way, again, I think about it is if I started thinking the way you're saying, I would be very scared to take risks. And I think the way I look at it is, if you don't take risks, you will never move forward. And with each risk you take, there is always that chance of failure, right? So you take your calculated risks, but don't not take the risks in the fear of making a mistake.
I love this.
Or in the fear of being judged. Because I think if you live in the fear of being judged, it's impossible to be able to do anything at all. Because honestly, if you think about it, everyone at some level will be being judged by somebody or the other. And if you start taking that as your guiding force, there's no way you'll progress.
You run a cricket team. You run a cricket team with Rishabh Pant, 27 crores, so many stars, global stars. How do you kind of deal with that? Because the whole public out there, which will judge you, which will continuously sort of talk about that. And what I'm trying to say is, these guys They are all stars in their own right with huge social media followings, right? And you are continuously going to be compared on social media, how you sort of engage with them, what is the suggestion, what is the advice, how your team runs. How do you negotiate that?
Again, I think the way I look at it is for me, they are the experts in what they do, right? I am nobody who can go out on the field tomorrow and play that match. I don't have that skill, right? And so I don't even try and project that I have that skill or that I know any better, right? So what we don't do is we don't do backseat driving. We let the leaders who are leaders in their own right for that specific business, or in this case, for the game of sport, let them take those calls. So whether it is the captain, whether it is the coach, and then holistically dealing with the team.
Failure? Because when I see a Shashwat Goenka, or rather the world sees a Shashwat Goenka, success, right? Money, glamour, fame, whatever you want to call it. But adversity, I'm sure you faced many, right? Challenges, self-doubt, adversity.
Many.
How do you deal with it? And because that's what people don't know, or we don't see. From the outside world, everything in your world sounds very perfect to us, which it is not.
Yeah.
No one's world. How do you deal with adversity?
I think we've always been taught ever since a young age is, it may sound cliched, but in a way, treat failure as a stepping stone to move forward, and don't be afraid to fail, and fail, but use that as a learning so that you don't make the same mistake again, right? But that doesn't mean you don't take risks. That doesn't mean you don't try new things. That doesn't mean you don't try new strategies.
So you have self-doubt?
I think everyone in the world has some level of self-doubt, right? I think that's only normal and natural, because if you didn't, you'd just be complacent. So I think self-doubt is a normal human tendency to have. And I think that's what also makes sure that you are calculating the risks that you're taking. You are becoming a lot more aware of scenarios and situations that could happen with decisions you're taking. And it helps you be a lot more prepared, right, for potential outcomes as well.
So were you prepared for the 27 crores? 27 crores. When I still say it, I'm like 27 crores, the highest ever deal in the history of the IPL. I've not asked you this. You and I did an interview but from Dubai, very quick one. What was the talk on the table? If you can tell me, were you guys thinking we are creating history 27 crores?
No, we were not. And that was never our objective. Our objective was not to go into the auctions and leave the auctions by having bid the highest ever for any player. That was never the objective. For us, the objective is always very clear, that we need to have a very well-balanced team. And what are the ingredients that make that team, right? And for us, in that, Rishabh Pant was a core ingredient of that team, right? And which is why we went to the level we did, right? And I think, so it was never really about creating those headlines that, LSG has got the most expensive player in IPL history. None of that, right? The idea was, we need a balanced team. We need a good set of openers. We need a good middle order. We need a good finishing set. We need a full Indian pace attack. And that's what we went with, right?
Why, this Indian pace attack is something I loved when you said it then also.
Sure.
Mukesh, Akash, Mohsin, Akash, Mayank, all of them. I mean, a real hardcore Indian pace attack, plus Bishnoi for spin. Was this conscious that we will get all of these Indian sort of and you also have a backup.
Yeah.
So if I see an injury to Mayank, I see Mohsin stepping in, I see Akash stepping in, I see Avesh stepping in. I missed out Avesh.
Yeah.
So was this conscious?
Absolutely, because if you look at our retentions, we had retained some of the Indian bowlers, right, in our team. And I think when we were looking to construct the team, we were like, there are only those many international players you can have. And the whole point of the IPL is to actually groom Indian players as well. And I think in India, we have fabulous bowlers. There's no doubt about that, right? And I think, so we said, okay, we'll play it that way and build the team accordingly.
One thing I like about, not just you, about the group is sport is not simply a business. Because if it was, then Mohan Bagan Super Giant wouldn't be. Because the kind of money you all spend, I can say you all don't make that money. Or no football team makes that money. I hope in India someday football does make money. But at this point in time, there's a serious loss. And I find this interesting that you all are committed to it year after year, huge fan base. Talk to me a little bit more about this, because it's not about profits.
So, at the end of the day, sports, like I told you, is a business vertical for us, right? And that is the lens that we apply when we look at it. Having said that, we also believe that sports is a great leveler. And when you look at a country as diverse as India, this was one sector which needed a lot more impetus in a way to kind of come to the fore when you look at, well, 10, 12 years ago, if you looked at sporting across the world, India would have been there but not really been up there. I think today, India is really number one, right? Or maybe number two, right?
Cricket, yeah.
Exactly, right. And we're not far from being number one, let me put it that way. So I think it is about seeing that opportunity in the industry of sport and creating or taking that opportunity and kind of building sport for a nation. And also I think if I just draw a parallel, there's a lot that I've learned from being in sport, which we've applied to our core businesses as well, right? Whether it's resilience, whether it's dealing with successes and failures.
I want to know more on this, please.
Whether it is grit, whether it is determination, whether it's simply just discipline and hard work, right? Because if you look at the life of a sports person, they have to be disciplined. What they eat, whether they are fit, how they're playing each game, what are they learning from each game. Each game, the outcome is not going to be a win always, even though you're always playing to win. So that resilience, that courage of conviction to go out there and give your best each time, every time, these are some of the things that I feel like, I've imbibed a lot getting into sport and translating that into our core.
Brilliant. This is the purpose of this show, to understand you. Now you've gotten me there. Tell me, how are you backstage? Do you eat? Do you cook? Are you a foodie? Do you listen to music? How do you unwind? You've had a bad day in office, having met someone like me who's wasted your time. When you go home, what do you do? I mean, how do you unwind? How is Shashwat Goenka at home?
So at home, I think there's a lot of time that I spend with my two children. And I think that's great stress busting. I also do enjoy to cook. So I try and do that once in a while. And I think that's a big stress buster as well. And I think as a family, we bond a lot over food and we bond a lot over sport.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And what sport do you, except your own teams? Lucknow and Mohun Bagan will give you more grey hair. That's fine. But what are the other sports that you watch?
So I enjoy watching tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think between tennis, cricket, football, these are the
tennis,
three.
Cricket, football. What role technology plays in business and sport and in your scheme, Shashwat? Because when I see companies like ours, right, we've actually used COVID because Revsportz is what it is, because all of this stuff has become, technology. How important do you reckon digital technology can be going forward? And in a business as vast as yours, how important is technology?
I think it's at the center of every business today, right? I remember when I came back from college, which was in 2012-13, we were always trying to say, okay, let's digitize our businesses, right? And we were saying it's digital, we'll create a digital team who will look into a section of it, right? Today, it's very different. Today, without the digital world, there is no business. Everything is digital, right? Right from the backbone of every company to the ERPs, to the front end, to consumers, to interaction, to even marketing, right?
So when I go to sponsors, I'll cut this and show them. Seriously, one of India's leading business people saying it, now fund me. Come on, but no, tell me.
And then you share those funds with me also.
You will fund me, come on. You're the millionaire. I'll come every day with a bowl, come on. Anyway, but this is fascinating, tell me.
Yeah, so I think it's at the core of every business, and I think it's not really a conversation anymore. It's like the backbone of everything that you're trying to build. And I think even in sport, it's no different, right? Because I'll just give you the consumer angle of it, right? Is if you look at it with the digital consumption that's gone up, not just in India, but across the world, I think you're able to watch every sport everywhere in the world. You're able to use technology to track talent. You're able to build with AI on that to track how each player is performing. There's a lot that you can do, right? So I think, and this is just the beginning. I think we're just scratching the surface with technology. And I think technology is evolving so rapidly. And technology in every industry, including in sport, is really evolving a lot so.
Last few questions. One, work-life balance. All of us struggle with it, right? I mean, more with technology, you're kind of accessible 24 hours.
Yeah.
How do you do it? I mean, do you kind of have your me time? Does Shashwat Goenka have a me time that I will not take calls, I will not work, I'll play with my children or spend time at home? Are you able to do that when you run such a vast business empire?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we're always connected. You're always doing calls, meetings, whatever. That goes on, and that's round the clock 365 days of the year. But I do try and make it a point that the half an hour to 1 hour that I try and spend with my children, I try and do it ideally without a device. The only time I try to use the phone is to take pictures with them.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Because this work-life balance is difficult now. Almost all of us And the moment that WhatsApp goes and whatever you're doing or some tick happens and you're like hooked onto it and everything goes for a...
Yeah. I think gone are the days of saying that, my work is 9 to 5 and then I'm at home and then I'm sleeping and then the weekend I will not... This thing, I think the concept of work-life balance has changed a little bit maybe. And I don't think
there is a distinction as long as you're able to enjoy and work out your own
routine. Absolutely. So I think you're just permanently balanced because you can do a lot of everything at the same time.
Because suppose you had a bad work day.
Yeah.
Now automatically if you say no, 5 o'clock, done, finished, I will be happy. You can't do that, right?
I mean, absolutely.
So absolutely. Last few. I mean, there is so much talk about India and the Olympic Games, and I'm asking you as a sports football, cricket. The Prime Minister is sort of saying that Olympic bid, Ahmedabad is being projected as a city. Where do you stand on it? Do you think an event like the Olympic Games, sport can be used as soft power? Where do you stand on it?
See, I definitely think there's every reason in the world why India should host the Olympics, if we can, because India is a very diverse country, right? And if you look at it in its diversity, in every nook and corner, there is some element of sport. Whether you take the gilli danda, whether you take cricket, whether you take football, there are so many different sports that are played, some national, some international, and there are some very local to each community, right? So sports has always been a great leveler as far as India is concerned. And I think India has with it all the right ingredients to ensure that Olympics will be a huge, outstanding success. So I definitely think we should.
Last one, where does Shashwat Goenka see himself 5 years down the line?
Hopefully a lot better, a thinner, and a more successful version of myself.
Don't say that. You're talking with someone who's pleasantly plump. Don't say that. That to a Bengali, that to a Mishti. Edit this out. Anyway, no. But yes, tell me.
Yeah, so I think definitely someone, it's hard to say for 5 years later, but definitely I would like to be someone who's, so that 5 years later, when I look back, I should be like, I have been able to progress in those 5 years. And I've been able to progress my businesses in those 5 years.
Fascinating. It's been a lovely 22 minutes. So is Rishabh Pant captain? Come on, give me a headline.
Like I told you in the last time we spoke, which was about 2 weeks ago, we have a lot of leaders in the team. And
this one is leaving the ball outside. He's given me all the answers. Only this one, he sort of paused for a brief microsecond and said, "No, isko nahi dena hai is baat." But have you had a chance to speak to Pant after the thing? How excited is he?
I've spoken to every new member of the LSG.
Love this. How excited is he?
He's very excited, as is everybody else in the team, and I think we're all very excited as a management as well.
Fingers crossed for them. Hopefully Lucknow will have a great season and Rishabh will also stand up, because when I see his story from not walking and almost on the verge of
absolutely
what he had to go through, and to see him sort of doing those somersaults in Australia and playing for Lucknow Super Giants, leading or not, we will get to know in a bit. But what an incredible story that is, and I'm sure with Shashwat and of course Mr. Goenka, Sanjeev Goenka, it will make a good bond and Lucknow Super Giants will progress further. But this is far beyond Lucknow Super Giants. As I said, I wanted to understand Shashwat Goenka. I wanted to understand and ask him some of the questions that we don't generally get to ask. How he deals with adversity, self-doubt, failure. What does he do about work-life balance? Questions that all of us grapple with every day. And he decided to take all of them head on. All the best to you. What's the plan for Christmas and New Year's? Traveling, say, sort of relaxing a bit, or no?
For a couple of days, yes. And otherwise, it's back to work. It's a busy time for us. So
and festivities and work. Again, work-life balance. So there you go. Fascinating chat with Shashwat. That's the last question that I had for him. And we will be back with another edition of Leadership Talks with another achiever, who we will ask about their work-life balance and questions that we generally don't get to ask some of these people. But for the moment, I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Thank you very much for watching.